Alright. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, adults, children, teenagers, adolescents, young adults, people in wheelchairs, whatever you want to call them. This is the Club of Demand 1993, and we are here live for a live top 10 special, as we have a double top 10 doing it in this stream tonight, as we most likely going into AEW Dynamite, and probably the Wednesday night shows, so I'll probably miss at least half of them, because I expect this to be about a 2-hour stream, maybe longer, who knows. This is why I didn't do it last night when I finished these graphics at 11 o'clock at night last night, because I would have been up all night doing this stream. Also, I probably would have fallen asleep, because I would have tired myself out. But we are here live for one of my favorite top 10 streams to do, top 10 best and worst matches of 2020 in WWE. As we continue on to do I try to do these best of the best videos. Now, I have one more left for WWE. I, of course, do plan on doing a couple, maybe one or two for AEW. We'll see how it goes with the list I can come up with. Do some of the bests, maybe some weak spots of AEW also, but this is a big one. Like this one is my favorite. I don't know why, I just love doing top 10 matches. These are the ones that really I talk about that makes me appreciate and just like frustrate me as a wrestling fan. The best matches are ones that I'll look back on and just say, they brought back incredible moments. And the worst matches are ones that I thought, put me to sleep and just insulted me as a wrestling fan, as I said. I would definitely be interested in hearing your thoughts as well in the live chat, or in the comments section below after I do this video, and to hear your thoughts as well as what were your best and worst matches in WWE from 2020. This could be from Raw, SmackDown, NXT, NXT UK, 205 Live if you watch that show, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Extreme Rules, The Horror Show. We'll be talking about several matches from that show, by the way, and many other moments like throughout this past year in wrestling. So, we're going to get rolling with this, because I do want to watch one of the Wednesday night shows, and I will hopefully review that tonight, later on. So, again, as always, this is just my top 10 list, as I do have 10 this time. The past couple streams I've been more so top 5s, but I do have 10. It was actually tough for me to come up with 10 of the worst, because, let's face it, some matches to me, I'm like, it is what it is, but some matches are just downright insulting. So that's why, it was tough actually for me to do the worst, and there were several that ranked it for the best. I think I actually came up with 12, I think it was, for WWE. That was some good matches. Probably not some of the greatest matches of all time, but definitely some pretty good ones. Although, I will be honest and say, when we get to the bests, none of them I thought really, stuck out to me as, the best. They were all, ones I feel like I put up in, the top 3, as the third best or something like that. I had a hard time actually picking my actual number 1 for that one. But yeah. So, of course, before we get started, anybody in the live chat? Nope, we do not have anybody in the live chat. That's a shame, but, oh well, maybe we'll have a few more come in later on. But yeah, so without wasting time, let's start off with the worst. Again, these are the 10 worst matches that I felt, just really let me down in 2020. A couple of these, they are what they are. Some of them were just very disappointing. Some were just downright insulting. And, we go from there. So there will be some ranting, of course, in this first top 10 list, as we do the 10 worst. Number 10, to me, was just a throwaway, because like I said, I came up with 8. The ninth one I came up with, I can't remember what it was. I'm just okay, it was bad. It was what it was, but it still was. It'd be one that'd be a good candidate. This one, I feel like it just was what it was. I guess because we've seen it how many times. We all know how many freaking times we've seen these two wrestle, and how many times the one person involved in this match just never puts on a good wrestling match. Very rarely, at least, that is. So, This was kind of a throwaway. Let's start off with my number 10 for the worst matches in WWE in 2020. The Club of the Man 1993 presents WWE's Top 10 Worst Matches of 2020. Number 10. Asuka vs. Nia Jax, Raw Women's Championship at Backlash 2020. So this match was the Raw Women's Championship match from Backlash in 2020. Pretty much Nia's first feud she had since she came back after being out for a year with double knee surgery. And of course, long before, she currently, instead of screaming out, "Heh!" she screams out, "My hole!" So, this was just a throwaway feud for one of the many, throwaway feuds for Asuka as Raw Women's Champion. Other than her feud, of course, with Sasha and Bayley, I would say most of Asuka's feuds as champion has been super throwaways. Because obviously, it's not her fault. There's no depth. This match, of course, though, was just a pure example of a wasted pay-per-view match, though. Takes place at Backlash. The build was what? Nia Jax just mocking Asuka for God knows what reason. I still won't forget when Nia tried to mock Asuka's entrance with the mask and whatnot. It's just so fake. There's some people who are good at, mocking, someone else's work. And then there's some that it just looks downright pathetic. And that's, of course, what happens when Nia Jax tries to mock, Asuka's entrance. But this match happens, and it was only like a 10-minute match. But, again, we've seen this match how many times over the years. Even in 2018, whenever Nia Jax had a match with Asuka at Elimination Chamber where she won, she would earn a title opportunity at WrestleMania. Well, remember, Nia lost to Asuka 3 weeks in a row, and then Alexa Bliss breaks her heart, and that's how Nia Jax earns a title match. Still find that pathetic? Yeah. But then this match, of course, happens at Backlash, and it goes 8 minutes of stuff we would normally see on an episode of Raw or whatnot. And it ends in a pointless double countout. Yeah, it was really just a waste of time. Just to set up a rematch on Raw the following night. I believe that was the one where Nia got disqualified, and why did she get disqualified? I don't know. She's a heel. She's got to be mean. She's got to, she's got to get in trouble for some reason. But it's so anti-dramatic, and it just resulted in Nia Jax getting suspended for reasons why, once again, still didn't make any sense. So, what's the point? What's the moral of the story? What was the whole reason behind this? Just to get Nia Jax, just to entertain, have Vince just laugh his ass off about how much heel heat Nia Jax gets just because she's, Nia Jax. So, yeah, this was a total waste of time and kind of like a throwaway pick because, like I said, we've seen this crap happen how many times. But, like I said, kind of a throwaway pick that I just need to throw in there to, give me one more match to, basically fill up my worst spot. So that's why this one is not the most talked about one, but it is my number 10. For my number 10, for worst matches of the year in 2020, is Asuka versus Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship at Backlash 2020. And we move on next to my number 9 pick. Number 9 is actually a match from NXT. It involved a feud that, involved a big star in NXT go from being, one of the hottest things going on in the company to having a match at WrestleMania to losing, and then once she's out of the title picture, going back to this this was just a throwaway thing just to make her still relevant. It's just a way just to probably get a few laughs out there that's just corny as hell. And to me, it was a waste of time and did nothing in return. So this match actually took place on one of NXT's Wednesday night specials, a two-parter, last summer. And it's technically a 2-on-1 intergender match. And I just didn't find it funny. I was not entertained, and thought it was stupid. So that's why this next match is my number 9 for worst matches of 2020 in WWE. Number 9. Rhea Ripley versus Aaliyah and Robert Stone. 2-on-1 handicap match, NXT Great American Bash 2020. Yeah, this match. So, let me get this straight here. Rhea Ripley came in to 2020 as the NXT Women's Champion, being like super pushed to the point where you knew how big of a deal she was and how high she was on like Triple H's scale and like everyone else. This woman felt like someone special. And of course, why would they go ahead and have her have a match at WrestleMania 36 with the NXT Women's Championship on the line against one of the greatest of all time, Charlotte Flair? Amazing story. Perfect. Rhea lost. Yes, that was disappointing. Still a fantastic match, I'll give her that. Would have been nice to see her win, though. She, of course, continued the feud with Charlotte and Io Shirai, as this was during a time where Io had just been out with a knee injury. She came back, and then she quietly transitioned to a babyface role, as it seemed to be. And then, after that feud was over, whenever Io won the championship at NXT TakeOver In Your House, and of course, Rhea would eventually face Io one-on-one, I think around October or something like that. Put on a classic, I would say. That's another match of the year candidate, I forgot to mention, by the way, for my best matches. Again, honorable mention there. But then, they squander her to this. She feuds with the Robert Stone brand. Now, I liked Robert Stone. I did when he was the manager for Chelsea Green. But then out of the blue, they break up him and Chelsea Green. For what reasons? I still don't know why. And then they throw him with Aaliyah. I like Aaliyah. I always thought she was, a couple years ago, I actually was pulling for Aaliyah to, get a little more than just being an enhancement talent to just 8 pins. But I've moved on from those days. It's obvious to me there's no long-term future, really, for Aaliyah in, the main event scene. So I lost faith in that, of course. And then they started booking Robert Stone as a freaking joke. It looked like something that only Vince McMahon would want. Like Shotzi Blackheart running over his leg with her tank. Or, I don't know, Rhea Ripley beating the crap out of Robert Stone, just like Asuka beat the crap out of James Ellsworth like he was a freaking pinata. Shout out to Obi-Wan Kenobi for, that memory when we did that Wrestling Awards video back in 2018, I believe that was. Yeah. But I just didn't find this funny. Again, my honest opinion, how do you go from having Rhea Ripley literally being one of your hottest acts in the company, getting a freaking match at WrestleMania, to this 2-on-1 handicap match on a network special? It just, to me, it did nothing. It was just a whole poor comedy act, I felt, that was not needed. There was no need. Rhea Ripley did not need this. Robert Stone did not need this humiliation. Aaliyah didn't need this humiliation. It was just stupid. I didn't like it. It was just dumb, and that's why it ended up being one of my worst matches of the year. One of the last picks I did, but yeah. This was a pretty crappy match, this 2-on-1 handicap match at the Great American Bash, and this whole feud in general was just a blab, waste of time, didn't like it. So yeah, that's why that match is my number 9 for worst matches of the year in 2020. We move on now to my number 8 pick. Oh boy. This match, my number 8, was a prime example of WWE getting way too funky. Way too overproducing. They overproduced way too much of this match. Of course, the result... Here's the thing. This next match I'm about to talk about, I thought the wrestling was good. If you took out the stipulation and the finish, this would not be on this list. Because this was a good match. But then, the finish, the story, the whole idea behind this match, made me sick. It was just... Let's just talk about it. Here's my number 8. Number 8. Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins. Eye for an eye match at Extreme Rules 2020. And of course, I did forget to say on any matches involving Extreme Rules, because this is not the only one, Extreme Rules, the horror show that took place this year, back in July of 2020. Oh boy, probably... We talked about this storyline back in my top 5 best and worst storylines of 2020. We're not going to talk about the story again. We're going to talk about just this particular match in general between Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins. At the time, this was a very personal, blood feud. This would be more so of like a grudge match. Rey Mysterio wanted to get his revenge on Seth Rollins for piercing his eye, and he obviously just wanted to get revenge back for Rollins trying to eliminate him, saying that Rey needed to be a sacrifice for the greater good. So yes, it was like a 2-month build actually to this match. So when you see, the build was going good for this until they probably announced the stipulation. So this really was good. What my opinion is this could have been set for like a street fight or a no holds barred match, no disqualification. Could have been an Extreme Rules match, for crying out loud. Like, they didn't have to do what they did here. Rey Mysterio challenges Seth Rollins to an eye for an eye match. The goal behind this match was to basically knock one of your opponent's eyes out of its socket. And, first off, the reality is again, like I said, another thing about the pandemic and having a micromanaged crowd, and WWE thinking that they're in full control and basically can make this feel like their own playground, like their own video game. There was no way, if a crowd was around, that WWE was going to be able to pull something like this off. And it just did not work. The match itself, was good. But then came the finish, where Rey Mysterio got his eye pierced out, and he starts screaming out, "I need a doctor." And you see inside his mask, because right before this, he had ripped off the patch that was blocking off his bad eye. You see inside the patch the fakest toy eyeball in there. Obviously, Rey's eye didn't really come out of place. And then there's Seth Rollins just puking on the side. Yes. Is it disgusting? Yes. But my question also about this, not just was it just bad, was it just, just awful production and just like so unnecessary. But what also made it unnecessary is, besides the fact that Seth Rollins gouged out Rey Mysterio's eye yet again, what was the point of this match? Like, to me, it felt like we were starting over completely with this feud. Because that's how this feud first started. Like, Rey Mysterio got absolutely no comeuppance. Like, nothing to come out of this match to even give him the slightest bit of momentum coming out of this match against Seth Rollins. Yes, this turned into a feud that was, at some point was supposed to get over his son, then eventually his daughter. We're not going to talk about that again. But the finish just felt like a waste of time. Again, it was overproduced. It was super unnecessary. Like, again, why do we have to win by having them gouge someone's eye out? You really think, for the rest of Rey Mysterio's life, he's going to be looked at seriously for thinking he actually has an eye that can still work again? I don't. I'm not in the, stuff that doctors do or surgeries and whatnot like that. But I just. Again, another thing that just literally made no sense was absolutely very unnecessary. And like I said, it did nothing for anyone. It just felt like, again, we were right back where we started from with this entire feud. Back to Seth Rollins gouging out Rey Mysterio's eyeball. Like, Rey gained nothing from this match. Absolutely nothing. So it was stupid and a waste of time, but probably just to have, again, as I always say, I feel Vince McMahon comes with a match, imagines one spot, and that's all he wants to see. Such as in 2019, when Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler had that steel cage match for the world title. I'm pretty sure that match only happened because Vince just wanted to see Kofi do that cool stunt. That's the only thing he had in mind, nothing else. Wow, okay, there's that cool stunt out there. Go out there and just, wing it and then do that stunt and we're good. Yeah. Seth Rollins throwing up and Rey Mysterio having a fake eye in his mask to show that he lost his eye, which he really didn't. Just was terrible. It was pathetic. It was not entertaining at all, and again, I didn't like this match. Well, the match itself was good, but like I said, the finish and then the fallout from it, the whole point behind it, that's why this match is worthy of my number 8 spot on my list for worst matches of the year in WWE in 2020. Let's just move on to number 7 right now. This one needs no introduction. Number 7. Elias versus Baron Corbin at WrestleMania 36. Do I really need to say much about this? The fact that this match even took place on the main card at WrestleMania. Who cares? WrestleMania needs to be something special. The matches that happen are must see. They're matches that you wouldn't be getting just on Monday Night Raw. A match like this, though, between two guys that, Elias is liked for his gimmick. In-ring ability, not so much. Elias is nothing special in the ring. And then you got Baron Corbin. Baron freaking Corbin, who we all know is just literally not beloved at all by any wrestling fan. Put those two together on a main card match at WrestleMania. If there was a crowd, they would have absolutely crapped on this. This match was boring. It was stupid. It was pointless. Did they bring main event to Monday night? Main event to WrestleMania or something? Or was this just an absolute filler? This match was so pointless. It was so unnecessary. It did nothing. Two guys who don't even deserve to really have a one-on-one match at WrestleMania, having one against another guy who really should be having a normal one-on-one match at WrestleMania. It's going to do nothing. I don't even know what to say. This was another, kind of, not really a throwaway, but just one that, just is on this list primarily because on an episode of Raw or SmackDown, this would just be, whatever. Was what it was. The fact they actually did this at WrestleMania is just stupid. Just absolutely just stupid. It does nothing for anyone. It's not entertaining. It was boring. It's just two guys who shouldn't be having this spot getting, a spot on the card at Mania. And again, like I said, it just literally did nothing and just put me to sleep. And that's all I gotta say. Like I said, not much needs to be said about this match. It's just pointless. Boring, and one of the worst matches of 2020 in my honest opinion. Which is this match between Elias and Baron Corbin at WrestleMania 36. We're actually going to stick with WrestleMania 36 for my number 6 spot on this list. This next match, I don't know how other people felt about this match, but this match really disappointed me. This one in particular because, of course, at the time, I'm hearing the rumors how the challenger in this match has a lot of creative freedom. He's involved with the writing crew. And with his mentality of trying to make others look good and putting them over, I was actually really excited about this match. It was a dream match to me. But then, of course, it showed that someone does not have as much creative control as they thought. And it was also during the time where this man, the champion in this match, literally had a lot of go-away heat. And he's been better since he came back right after SummerSlam. But a match like this, I'm just like, why? Like, this should have been a star-stealing, stellar match. To me, one of the most disappointing matches, I would say. Like, a match that I was actually expecting to be good was actually a very big letdown. And unfortunately, it involves two of my wrestlers. Well, my favorite wrestler of all time, but someone else who should be another one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. But again, WWE had to make him how they wanted to make him. So let's stick with WrestleMania 36 for my number 6 spot for worst matches of the year in 2020 in WWE. Number 6. Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 36. This match should have been a killer. Like, for real, this match, to me, should be on the other list. The top 10 best matches of 2020 in WWE. Not the worst. Sami Zayn, after how many years, on the main roster, finally won a title on the main roster. The Intercontinental Championship. He won it at Elimination Chamber with the help of Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura in the 3-on-1 handicap match against Braun Strowman. But here's the problem. Sami Zayn at this time was being booked like a freaking manager. Why? I don't know. I don't know if he was, hurt again because he's been kind of injury prone, I'll be honest. Or if Vince literally just for a while just lost faith in him and, wasn't laughing his ass off about, Sami Zayn being just like a loudmouth heel who just gets his ass kicked. Even though, like I said, once again, his most recent run since he came back from SummerSlam has been better. Again, it's not the worst. It's not the best we've seen with Sami Zayn, but it's not the worst either. This match should have just been an off-the-chart classic. Two of the best overlooked superstars in the business, especially Sami Zayn, being booked where most of this match was basically Sami Zayn running away, not even taking a bump. Like, if Sami Zayn is hurt, don't, book him in a way where it's like we don't know how we should be feeling. Again, like the whole... Actually, I'm not going to go there. Never mind, scratch that. But if he's being booked like a freaking manager, why are you putting the mid-card championship, one of your workhorse championships, on this guy? And have a match at WrestleMania where he does nothing but runs around and hits a haluva kick to win the match. There was no offense in this match. This should have been like a technical, high-flying, fun-filled match that, if there was a crowd, the crowd would be going absolutely bonkers for. Instead, like I said, it was just a bunch of, just running around, backing away like a freaking coward. Just interference from the alliances, and it was just... it was so dumb. It was just a terrible match. It was to me one of the most disappointing matches, I'd say, of the year, because it should have been good. This is just a freaking dream match that they just freaking, squandered on in some ways. I didn't like this match. I did not appreciate it at all, and like I said, that's why it's my number 6 for worst matches of the year in 2020. Number 5. We got here for number 5. Oh, speaking of stuff that absolutely does not make sense, let's go back to the Horror Show Extreme Rules. Number 5. Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman Swamp Fight at Extreme Rules 2020. What was the point of this? So, the Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt feud took up most of Braun Strowman's run with the Universal Championship this past summer. Again, Braun Strowman was never supposed to be Universal Champion, but he only was because Roman Reigns went home and Goldberg needed an opponent at WrestleMania 36. So, for most of the summer, besides a brief 2-on-1 run-in that was very weak also, with The Miz and John Morrison, Braun Strowman feuded with his former friend, leader in his, on-screen group, Bray Wyatt. So, obviously, the goal was to have this, be capped off at SummerSlam. Even though they kind of did have a match, they basically had a match when they had that triple threat match at Payback. That's technically where the feud ended. But, they basically had this story where Braun Strowman dealt with just, Mr. Rogers' version of Bray Wyatt. And then Bray Wyatt disappeared and came back, and they had this match at Extreme Rules, and the blow-off at SummerSlam where Bray Wyatt faced The Fiend. And I don't think we had seen The Fiend since Bray Wyatt won against John Cena at WrestleMania 36 in the Firefly Funhouse match. But to have a little bit of a filler, because they already did filler by having Strowman face Miz and John Morrison in a 2-on-1 handicap match at Backlash. Then we go to Extreme Rules, and it was... They're telling the story there where I guess Braun Strowman is trying to protect... Bray Wyatt is trying to protect Braun Strowman from The Fiend. But then he invites Braun Strowman to where it all began. The place that we all thought was burned down, the Wyatt family swamp. And this was just one of several. We have one more coming up actually in this list of several really badly produced cinematic matches. I cannot tell you what the whole point of this was. Just to see The Fiend peek out at the end. Like, Braun Strowman arrived. He started brawling with these random minions. He gets knocked out, taken to a... He gets knocked out, and he, dreams of being in some other place of Bray Wyatt's. I guess they had him imagine he was in the Wyatt family compound. Again, I thought Randy Orton burned that sucker down. But the production of it was just so fake. Like, one, I don't get the reason why Bray Wyatt, had, why Bray Wyatt, I don't know what to say. Like, I get just the idea of Braun Strowman being knocked out was just not produced well. And then they incorporated Alexa Bliss into this too with her. And they try to bring back the whole thing with her and Braun Strowman's love story from the Mixed Match Challenge, even though that was really just nothing at all whatsoever. And then it basically ends with Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman fighting in a swamp, and the Fiend returns. this felt like a waste. Like, the title was not on the line. It felt like a long, very long, drawn out segment that didn't need to be as long as it was. It was not a pay-per-view worthy blow-off. In fact, again, the whole idea of Bray Wyatt going back to the Wyatt family compound, to me, just made no sense, because, once again, didn't they burn it down? I don't know. To me, this did nothing. At least the match at Money in the Bank, there was some storytelling there with, again, with Braun Strowman trying to protect, with Bray Wyatt trying to protect Braun Strowman from the Fiend and whatnot, but there was some spots in this feud that just did not work. And this swamp fight was definitely one of them. It was boring, it was pointless, and definitely the number 5 worst match of the year, in my opinion, in WWE. Number 4, we're going to stick with cinematic matches here. Oh, dear Lord. What was the point of this one? Some of these matches we talked about so far that just did not make sense. The Wyatt family compound match. Elias and King Corbin at WrestleMania. We also have Nia Jax and Asuka at Backlash. This was insulting. This one really pissed me off. To me, probably the worst cinematic match of the year. It was just a dumb comedy fest, as this entire feud was. If you remember when I talked about it in my worst storylines of the year, to me, this one put the cherry on top here. We may have had some very stupid, basketball games, axe throwing, golf, all that other stupid crap. Turkey leg romance, because Ivar, you're cute. Eric, you? Not so much. But number 4. The Street Profits versus the Viking Raiders in a cinematic match at Backlash 2020. I so hated this feud. And one thing that will never get out of my mind that I would love to forget and pretend absolutely, positively did not happen was this match. Whatever this was. Segment, match, toilet humor moment. Just something so dumb for Vince McMahon to laugh his head off at. So, again, the whole story behind this is a night also they called themselves the Viking Profits, but this friendly battle between the Viking Raiders and Street Profits of anything I can do, anything you can do, I can do better, was just so dumb. It did not work out. The matches, the actual wrestling matches they had were fine, but everything else around it, again, it was just so freaking stupid. It was obviously one of those things just to please one man. And that one man probably found all of this so freaking hilarious. Especially this match. So, once again, oh my, they love cinematic matches. We gotta have more cinematic matches. Yes, you overdid them and made them very uncool, and now we don't give a crap about them. We don't even want to see them now because, you made them into a complete disaster and a complete joke. And this one right here was the icing on the cake. I'd rather go back and watch the Wyatt family swamp fight than this match. So, Eric and Ivar brawled, and the Street Profits were just brawling for no reason around the Performance Center. This is also, and then they randomly teamed up to take on Akira Tozawa and his stinking ninjas. That's when we had the debut of that new gimmick for Akira Tozawa. Jeez, oh man, that was just awful. And they basically continued the brawl. There's no titles on the line. But this went on for a good, maybe 15 or so minutes. Roughly that. I don't remember. I don't even want to remember. This match ended with no pinfall. It ended with all 4 of these guys. Angelo Dawkins, Montez Ford, Eric and Ivar, in a garbage dump. In a dumpster being taken away with like what, an octopus or something like that going after them, and then they cut. So what was the point? Are they dead? Are they alive? Or did, just like Eric Rowan's little toy spider, was just a big letdown like everything else is? This match was stupid. It was just all around freaking stupid. You had to sit there for like, what, 20, 15, 20, even 20 minutes just to see the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits get cornered in a garbage can by an octopus? Again, I know there was one man for sure that found this hilarious. This was not funny. This was not funny. Comedy, again, is not meant for everyone, especially the stinking Viking Raiders. And the constant, message sent with Ivar getting a woman, and she goes, "Hello, you're cute." It looks at Eric and goes, "You? Not so much." Again, I bet you any money that's all Vince McMahon's dream world, and he freaking gets so excited over stuff like that. Jeez, oh man. But that is my number 4. My number 3 is the next 2 matches are not so super when there's a showdown happening. And this, again, was just a staple as to why Super Showdown, and whenever it happens again, Crown Jewel is nothing but a stinking waste of time and nothing but a stinking blood money glorified house show. And also, this was the beginning of the downfall of a certain one and only. Number 3. Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet WWE Championship match at Super Showdown 2020. Poor Ricochet. Oh boy. So, there was no doubt in my mind Ricochet was not going to win this match, right? I think we all can agree with that. I think we all can agree that Ricochet is freaking awesome. Ricochet beating Brock Lesnar would have been pretty cool. But did you really have to punish him by making him look like a stinking joke? A man, for crying out loud, that does flips. A man that does, extra unordinary things. Such as doing like a 450 or a friggin' 630, jumping over the top rope and landing like 2 inches in front of Velveteen Dream. Remember, the Dream got no memory of that. To having a great run with the North American Championship. To winning the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic with Aleister Black. Getting a very brief run with the United States Championship. To this? This is what he gets? Like, this is your idea of a complete, filler cooldown match? Brock Lesnar literally destroying Ricochet and making him look like an absolute joke. Okay, yeah, it keeps Brock dominant, but how many more years do we want to see Brock Lesnar dominate everyone? Like, what was the point of this match? To me, it did nothing. It made Ricochet look like a joke rather than a legitimate contender for the world title. As he should be. Instead, he's now in catering. He's got basically no friends on Raw. And he's losing to Riddick Moss on main event. Which he lost to, by the way, the Monday after this pay-per-view took place. That's when he lost to Riddick Moss. And Ricochet just has not been the same ever since. And again, it's just a freaking shame. And this match was just the staple about how this all got started. Again, this was just a joke from the very beginning. And it was not going to make Ricochet look good. It's going to make him look bad. So congratulations, WWE. You ruined one of the biggest stars you could have possibly had at one point. But that's my number 3. Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet at Super Showdown 2020. We're going to stick with the Super Showdown for number 2. Number 2 is a match that I personally feel, in a joking way, I don't want to act like I believe in curses or whatnot. This was the downfall for WrestleMania 36's build. This was the downfall for WWE in 2020. And this, to me, was just a bad time. Let's talk about this match at my number 2. Number 2. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt versus Goldberg, WWE Universal Championship match at Super Showdown 2020. It cracks me up to this day. I never thought they would do this. I never thought WWE would be that dumb to not only have Ricochet get squashed by Brock Lesnar, but to also have The Fiend get squashed in a 4-minute match to an old hag, Goldberg, 55 years old. What's him winning the championship going to do for anyone going to WrestleMania? It's obvious he was going to lose, but I didn't think WWE was that dumb. Was I skeptical about The Fiend facing Roman Reigns? Oh, absolutely. I was worried about that from the get-go because I didn't want to see Roman Reigns be the one to dethrone The Fiend. Then came stepping in superhero, Goldberg. And, the build to the match was he's not afraid of The Fiend. Well, he served that right because... now look what happened. They had the match. Goldberg squashed The Fiend. He even beat him with a lousy jackhammer suplex that wasn't even hit that well either. And the fans literally just rioted in some ways. They were pissed. They were, basically, booing the heck out of Goldberg. They were booing the heck out of Roman Reigns because who wants to see that freaking match? Not me. Well, at least not at WrestleMania, but maybe, some other time. But yeah. This was right before the whole thing with the pandemic even began. And, it was just horrible. Horrible booking decision. It made The Fiend look bad, made everyone else around him look bad. It was just so dumb. It was a very poor booking decision. Now, this one should have been my number 1, but it ended up being my number 2. You want to talk about absolutely making everyone look like garbage at once? Yeah, wait no further. This is my number 1 worst match in WWE in 2020. Roll the tape, guys. And the number 1 worst match of 2020 in WWE is the 5-on-5 Women's Survivor Series Elimination Match at Survivor Series 2020. I don't know where to start with this one. This one, in a year where depth really feels lacking, the star power feels lacking, the company feels lacking. We want something new. But good old Bruce Pritchard, who just kisses Vince McMahon's butt every day, whatever you say, boss, just trying to please him, should be ashamed of himself. Whose idea was it to book Lana like this year? Whoever it was, you should be fired. How do you have Lana going from an annoying married woman who literally makes absolutely no sense, throws hissy fits for no reason, that also does not make any sense at all whatsoever, to all of a sudden trying to put all the sympathy in the world on her with 10 weeks in a row of being thrown through a table, of constantly losing to both Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. And everyone just acts like she has no chance when she's in the ring, which is true. So, everybody's just treating her like she's just a piece of garbage. Like, I'm sure the WWE would love to do that because, again, her husband left the company earlier last year and went to AEW in September, and basically told WWE to take that brass ring and shove it. So now Lana gets punished, but instead of her getting punished, she's getting rewarded in ways that's making nobody else look good at all whatsoever. And we get to this Women's Survivor Series elimination match. Oh, boy. This match. It was just so insulting. So obviously, first off, you know it's going to be bad when Nia Jax, is the freaking team captain. Because she did a lousy job. The whole story behind this, again, was for Lana basically to be treated like she was a nobody. And somehow maybe she could have proved them wrong. She maybe could have, eliminated Nia Jax, or at least did something that got some eyebrows raising. Instead, what they did, they had Lana tag out of the match and stand on the steel steps posing like a freaking soldier, not moving. So she does not stand up to her bully, Nia Jax, so now she looks like a freaking idiot. And again, another reason to ask, why would anyone want to put any babyface sympathy on this woman during a time like this, after she literally just is horrible in the ring? She also, apparently does not have a... I'm not going to go that far. Just makes no sense. And you made her out into an absolute stinking joke this year. So of course, anyone who loses to Lana, why would I take them more seriously? She's a joke! And the fact that you had her as the sole survivor when she did absolutely nothing but stand as still as a statue was not funny. It wasn't funny. To me, it just made everyone in the women's division look bad. It made the company look bad. I'm pretty sure we probably got a lot of network cancellations because of this, and if so, again, I don't blame them. This was stupid, this was insulting, and this to me was my worst match of the year in WWE in 2020. So, to recap, and I'm going to get a quick drink of water because I'm getting a little sleepy already. To recap, my number 10 was Asuka and Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship at Backlash. Number 9 was Rhea Ripley versus Aaliyah and Robert Stone in a 2-on-1 handicap match at NXT TakeOver, or NXT's Great American Bash. Number 8 was Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins' Eye for an Eye match at Extreme Rules 2020, The Horror Show. Number 7 was Elias versus Baron Corbin at WrestleMania 36. Number 6 was Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 36. Number 5 was Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman in a swamp fight match at Extreme Rules 2020, The Horror Show. Number 4 was the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders in their dumb cinematic match, whatever the heck that was, that literally did nothing for me. Number 2 was The Fiend versus Goldberg for the Universal Championship at Super Showdown. And number 1 was the 5-on-5 Women's Survivor Series elimination match, because of how bad that was freaking produced. But yeah, that is going to do it now for my worst matches of 2020. We're going to get ready to move on to the best. Before we move on with that, let me just take a quick breather and let me just go grab a drink of water, and I will be right back. So hang on. Hang tight just for 1 minute, guys. Admire my chair while you wait. I'll be right back. myself up again, and yeah. Alright, oh, I keep forgetting I keep taking this sucker off. There we go. Alright, we're back here, guys. Again, just needed to, take a brief break for a second, because I, gotta refresh myself, because again, this is a long stream. Already getting through 1 hour with the worst. I figure it's going to be a case, probably another hour for the bests. And then, yeah, I'm probably going to miss the first half of AEW Dynamite, but that's okay. I'll watch the highlights and catch up afterwards. So, let's first check the live chat and see what we got here. As we already gone through the worst. We got Tyler and we got Mark in the live chat. What's up, guys? Tyler says, Corbin and Elias did not scream a Mania match. That is for damn sure. Worst match of 2020. Asuka and Sasha Banks at Extreme Rules. Yeah, actually, that's a good one. That was a good match. The finish of that match was so dumb. I didn't want to keep doing, dumb finishes, though. So I will definitely say that was a good choice, though, definitely. With that finish, with what, Bayley making herself the referee and whatnot, it's just like, well, and they didn't wait till the following night on Raw to enforce that, so that, again, that was stupid, so that was a good one. And Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens at TLC. Are you saying that's a worst, or is that a best? Because we're gonna be disagreeing big time on that one, Tower. If that was a worst for you, but again, it's your opinion as always. Extreme Rules is the worst pay-per-view of the year for 2020. He also thought Bray and Braun was the worst feud of 2020. I wouldn't say it was the worst. Again, there was portions that I didn't like, but there was some stuff that I did like. So that one I can't say it was my worst. What was my worst feud of the year, actually? I can't remember now. What was it? Oh, yeah. Retribution. That was my worst feud. Bray was not going to beat Goldberg. I thought he was going to, but again, I was wrong. And of course, why is Lana still here? What's up, Mark? Now we don't have to see Asuka drop the title to Lacey Evans, as far as we still know. He says his best for him is Sasha and Bayley inside Hell in a Cell, Roman and Jay Hell in a Cell, Keith Lee and Karrion Kross, and Finn Balor versus Adam Cole were some of his bests. Not bad choices there. Couple of them are definitely on my list. And we're going to get rolling into this list right here for the top 10 best matches of 2020. We'll move on to some POP, Power of Positivity, baby. This was a good list to put together. I'm actually very pleased with the list. Like I said, though, it was kind of tough. I mean, these matches I would consider some of the bests, but as far as determining an actual number one best match of the year, it ended up me coming down to, because I look at these matches and I feel like, okay, on most lists, the best ones would probably rank at like number 3. Like, none of these felt like they were like a number one match of the year candidate. So the one I did go with in the end for number one was one I feel deserves a lot of respect. Because, well, as of now, for what it was. For what the moment was. But, we'll start off with number 10. And believe it or not, several of these matches actually did not take place at a pay-per-view. We have 1, 2, 3. Well, 3 of these matches actually did not take place on pay-per-view. This first one did not take place on pay-per-view. This first match, to me, not completely, of course, but gave me a little bit, just a little bit, of HBK Undertaker vibes from WrestleMania 25. Basically just 2 of the best putting on a 40-minute clinic on an episode of SmackDown for a workhorse championship in the finals of a tournament. Let's start off with my number 10 best match of the year, and we go to the blue brand. The Club of the Man 1993 presents WWE's Top 10 Best Matches of 2020. Number 10. Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship Tournament Finals on the June 12th, 2020 edition of SmackDown. These two in the ring, it just, most of the time. I can say the only time these two have had a match that I did not enjoy was their match they had at Royal Rumble 2019. But I don't fully hold them responsible for that because they tried to treat that like a cool down match from the Women's Royal Rumble match. That was just a badly placed match in this card. But Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, I think this is the first time they ever had a one-on-one match where Bryan was the face and Styles was the heel. They had a couple face versus face matches, and of course a couple matches where Bryan was the heel and AJ Styles was the babyface. This time, the roles were different again. And this was again the finals for the Intercontinental Championship Tournament after Sami Zayn was forced to relinquish the Intercontinental Championship because he went home for the pandemic. And these two, again, there was no stipulation other than the Intercontinental Championship being on the line. And this is one of those matches that just purely makes a championship feel special. Again, the whole story of this, again, AJ Styles wanted to be Intercontinental Champion, wanted to face the best, but he's taking that as a right. Where Daniel Bryan takes it as the Intercontinental title should be a workhorse title. A title that's defended every single week to basically try to bring out the best in all the other wrestlers, on the roster and build new stars. Henceforth, John Cena 2.0, and he was the United States Champion in 2015. And that great run he had with the U.S. Open Challenges, making a lot of people look great. And that was obviously the story going into this match. And like I said, these two guys, they're older now. They're like, about to be 40 or in their early 40s. I think Bryan's 39. AJ's, 42, 43, one of the two. But these guys went out there and just, to me, probably put on their best match they've had in WWE together. Just awesome. Great counters, great drama, just very great back and forth movement that, we were not going to be able to tell who was going to win this match. It was just one of those matches that even without a crowd, a real crowd, it just felt special. It felt like a match that, the crowd would be on their feet. Just a freaking classic on live TV for free. And like I said, it felt like, in some ways, you can kind of compare this, not as good, of course, but you can compare this to The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 25. Just a one-on-one match for wrestling between two of the best. A title on the line, but, you know what I mean. It was a very special match for the Workhorse Championship, as I call them most of the mid-card titles. And these two went out there and had an absolute clinic with their styles of wrestling. No pun intended. That is why this match is my number 10 for best matches of the year in 2020 for WWE. My number 9 for best matches of the year is a match that we could safely say we enjoyed long before I really soured on this person's heel character. As this was, again, a match that probably could have used a crowd, a match that took place maybe probably a year too late due to injuries, and a match the dynamics were a little bit weird, but at the time, I understood what they did. They rolled along with the crowd, and they basically went a little bit of a different route in it. But it was also a way to kind of show that throughout this whole story, neither of these guys were innocent. So, it may not be my best match as it was. These two were actually part of my best match of 2018 in a Chicago street fight. This one, though, in an empty building with the one final beat, still made the top 10, but here's my number 10. My number 9 for best matches of 2020 in WWE. Number 9. Tommaso Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano. Rebel Heart versus Black Heart. One final beat on the April 8th, 2020 edition of NXT. Now, of course, before the pandemic happened, this was probably going to be the main event of NXT TakeOver Tampa Bay before that event got canceled due to the pandemic. And they spent the couple weeks after WrestleMania doing basically the matches that were supposed to take place at NXT TakeOver Tampa Bay. So, let me start by saying, after this feud ended, well, not so much for Tommaso Ciampa, because he actually did have a good build for his match with Karrion Kross. But this is really the last time I could say I really did enjoy Johnny Gargano's character. So, obviously, this match was originally supposed to be the main event of NXT TakeOver New York in 2019, until Tommaso Ciampa suffered that neck injury, that he was not able to, finish up the feud with Johnny, put him over, and go take care of his neck and come back, to something different. That neck injury again just hindered him from doing that match, and instead it took place 1 year later. And they had to kind of roll with, what they had happen. Tommaso Ciampa returned to a hero's welcome. And instead of in 2016 when Seth Rollins returned from a long-lasting injury, and he basically just stomped on everyone when they should have turned him face back then, they roll with it. They turned Tommaso Ciampa babyface as he feuded with Adam Cole. And that program went on all the way until NXT TakeOver Portland, when the man that Tommaso Ciampa once stabbed in the back would then stab Ciampa in the back when Johnny Gargano turned heel, costing Tommaso Ciampa the NXT Championship at NXT TakeOver Portland. And obviously, we all know why this happened. Ciampa knows why. Johnny knows why. Everyone knows why. Basically, the story here is NXT is not big enough for the two of them. Obviously, when it comes to being on top, even though it doesn't really matter because, have these guys really have much of a chance to even be back on top again, be the man? Besides, that fatal four-way match, when was the last time either of these guys had a match for the NXT Championship? Besides the point, they went with the flow, and obviously, Ciampa was getting more of a positive reaction than Johnny Gargano. So even though, as I'm always going to say, Johnny Gargano is meant to be a babyface, and this heel run has not worked out, I kind of like how going into this match, they didn't really emphasize a true face or a true heel. They kind of show that when both of these guys are fighting to be at the top, they, they're both not innocent. They both have their flaws. They're both not heroes. They're both not villains, basically. They basically had to put them on the same level, of course. And, this was just a nice, all flat-out brawl in an empty room, and a blood match. Well, there was no blood involved, of course, but just a brutal, all-out fight of these two beating the hell out of each other to end this feud and put an end to this 2 or 3 year feud basically that happened. They brawled inside the arena. They brawled around, on top of a trailer. Even though that kind of ended disappointingly. They brawled, cut to commercial, and then come back. They're walking off the top of the trailer like they were escorted down to. So that was very disappointing there. But, they continued to fight. The emotions built in there. Obviously, there was a point in the match where Candice LeRae came running in after she had dropped off Johnny Gargano to fight. And, obviously, LeRae came in and just, blamed Ciampa, saying, I hate you for what you did to my husband. You made him just a crazy boy and whatnot, and, someone who he really isn't. And she kicked, not yet, she kicked her own husband, what it looked like, with a low blow. She left. She came back later in the match, and right at a very emotional moment, whenever it seemed like that these two were The emotions just got to each other. These guys in real life are best friends. These two have grown up in this business together. And obviously, they put all that truth and that emotion into their story and bring out that more realistic approach. They were apologizing to each other. Ciampa and Johnny were apologizing, saying that they love each other and whatnot. But that was not going to be the truth as Candice LeRae came back and turned heel, low-blowing Tommaso Ciampa. Johnny Gargano then revealed the whole time he was wearing a cup. And Candice's damage to him did absolutely nothing. But it did all the damage in the world to Tommaso Ciampa because it led to Johnny Gargano defeating Tommaso Ciampa and him winning this war. Now, of course, the fallout from this, again, like I said, both these men have gone pretty directionless ever since. And, Johnny's, character to me has just been god-awful ever since all this. But, even though the dynamics were weird, and this was during a time, right at the beginning of the pandemic and everything, this was still a pretty darn awesome match. Even though it had been a year since we've seen these two, and this match was a year too late, I think with, what they were given, they did good. I thought this was a great match, and, this is my number 9 for best match of the year in 2020. Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano. Rebel Heart versus Blackheart. One final beat. My number 8 for best matches of the year. Again, this is actually one that Tyler mentioned. I am not sure if he meant to say best or worst for this, but I really like this match. Now, of course, these guys would have another pay-per-view match a month later at the beginning of this year, but to me, this was an incredible match. And matches like this show two guys that have great chemistry. When they are with the right alignment and booked right, you can definitely put on some magic, and their matches can be just that much better. And that's what happened with these two men when they picked up three words for you: tables, ladders, and chairs. Let's get to my number 8 for best matches of the year. Number 8. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens for the WWE Universal Championship TLC match at TLC 2020. So, Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens began a feud at the end of 2020, and it has continued into 2021. To the Royal Rumble, to now the Elimination Chamber, where Kevin Owens is going to be one of the 6 men to have a chance to defeat 5 others and get a shot at Roman Reigns in the main event of Elimination Chamber 2021. When these two started feuding, whenever they obviously teased, Kevin Owens is wanting to call out Roman Reigns, showing he's not intimidated by Roman Reigns, new attitude of the fact that Roman thinks he can just run the system like a fiddle and get all this power in the world. And basically Owens is like, I don't fear you. You may try to intimidate others, but I don't fear you, is basically the message that he had sent to the tribal chief, the big dog. And I thought this TLC match was just an awesome, fun, car-crashing car burner that was just involved weapons, aggression, these two beating the living hell out of each other, and of course the story of Kevin Owens just not being able to stay down. Roman barely getting out of this match to survive it as well. It was just awesome. Just awesome stuff. And again, the thing that gets to me is these two had a feud from 2000 around the same time, 2016 into 2017 for the Universal Championship. And that's when Kevin Owens was booked as a very poorly, cowardly heel as champion that year. And everything was just always the same. Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho versus Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. The same old crap kept happening. But the matches they would put on, such as their match at Royal Rumble 2017, the no DQ match with Chris Jericho locked in the shark cage, excellent. But what could have made that match just a little bit better if Owens was not booked like a coward. Well, you got two guys in here who are not being booked like cowards, and look how much better this match was. Again, this was awesome. Again, this awesome chemistry between these two. The great use of the weapons, just the fast pace, just the personal, build into this feud that they did. Again, these guys put on an awesome match. And that's why it is my number 8 for best matches of the year in 2020. My number 7. This was one of the last times, well, until maybe recently, where I basically said, NXT, remind me never to doubt you again. I'm serious. This match, well, even though the results were spoiled, the moment when it still happened was just amazing. Obviously, with the pandemic and everything, they had to, throw a curveball in here, while also with some other things going on, they had to think of a better moment. And again, I did not think they actually would go through with something like this, but I was wrong. And that's what made this not just a great match, but to me, one of the best moments, not just in the Moment Maker's career, but in wrestling this year and during the freaking pandemic. So that's why this match was my number 7 for best match of the year in 2020. Number 7. Adam Cole versus Keith Lee. Winner takes all at the NXT Great American Bash 2020. If this was a main roster match, there's no way the moment that happened in this match would have happened. This was just gold. This whole thing. So, this was obviously during the 2 weeks where NXT and AEW were both having basically 2 night specials. AEW had Firefest, and NXT was obviously competing for a draw, so they did the NXT Great American Bash, and the main event of that 2 night special was Adam Cole versus Keith Lee, the NXT champion versus the NXT North American champion. Winner takes all, meaning the winner will have both titles around their waists. Well, on their shoulders, however you want to call it. Adam Cole, the longest reigning NXT champion, versus the next big megastar, if booked right in the main roster, of course, Keith Lee, who was just on fire. Absolutely on fire. And not only, of course, did these guys put on an excellent match, but the moment at the end, of course, of Keith Lee not just dethroning Adam Cole of his reign as the longest reigning NXT champion, but winning the NXT championship and being the first person in NXT history to hold both the North American championship and the NXT championship, making him unique, fulfilling him as being limitless, and once again adding to his resume as the Moment Maker. Again, this was just, the match itself was awesome, but what made this match be on my list was just the moment in general. Like, this is like, even though of course it got spoiled because one of the NXT talents who was sitting in on the match at ringside spoiled it. Well, I can't say he did it by an accident. He freaking, posted on social media. But this is just awesome. A great moment for Keith Lee, again, who is definitely, the hottest thing probably going in NXT since he had, of course, his breakout matches with Dominik Dijakovic. Spoiler alert, we may be talking about him later on, by the way. Leading to, him winning the North American title from Roderick Strong, and also, check this out. Think about this. Keith Lee was the one who began to form the cracks in the prophecy. Okay, yes, they dropped the Undisputed Era dropped the tag titles to Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne earlier at the NXT TakeOver Portland event. But again, Lee started the cracks by winning the North American Championship from Roderick Strong towards the beginning of 2020, and he ended it. He ended the prophecy completely by taking away Adam Cole's gold at the NXT Great American Bash. What a great story to come full circle for Keith Lee. And just so you know, again, just make him unique. Not to make him just like another guy in NXT. Staple his legacy in this company by having him be the first person to win both the NXT and the North American Championship. Again, just an awesome moment and a great match, and definitely not just one of my favorite matches, but one of my favorite moments of the year. It's just too bad that Keith Lee didn't have a long run, for sure. Well, I mean, as North American Champion, yes. But of course, he would relinquish the North American Championship to give other opportunities to other upcoming superstars. But then, of course, his NXT title reign was short-lived, as he would drop it at NXT TakeOver 30 before he moved on to the main roster. But, again, can never take this moment away. One of my favorites for sure, not just in 2020, but of all time. Keith Lee, Adam Cole, winner takes all at the NXT Great American Bash 2020. My number 6 match for best match of the year holds a very special place in my heart, because to me, this was the last really good match I'd say we had in front of a live crowd. It's actually a match that I can say the first half, I hated it. But now watching it again, it all worked out great. The story in this match was told excellent. The moments in this match were spot on as well. And there's a lot of great stuff in this match. And that's why, even though I talked about it already recently, especially last month when I did a retro review of this match, we gotta talk about it again. Let's roll and talk about this. This was, a match that marked the beginning of someone's journey in the main event scene, and it also marked a return of someone we never thought we'd see back. Let's talk about my number 6 for best match of the year in 2020. Number 6. The 2020 Men's Royal Rumble match at Royal Rumble 2020. So the 2020 Men's Royal Rumble match was, of course, another match. There's been several Royal Rumble matches since 2015, I'd say. I would go in not sure how to feel. I'd say, 2015's, 2018's, 2020 also, I would say. Well, I went in worried. 2021's a little bit, but not as much. But 2020's end up pulling out an excellent outcome and set up a lot of great things to come for WrestleMania 36. That most of it got derailed mostly because of the pandemic. And we could also blame Goldberg defeating The Fiend at Super Showdown. But of course, that's always the turning point we always come back to as wrestling fans, of course. But like I said, this match right now holds a very special place in my heart. It was the last match that I really got to see, like really great match I got to see with a live crowd in the audience. And again, hats off to the Houston fans at Minute Maid Park. They made this match even more memorable with their great reactions. So, the story of this match was Brock Lesnar, despite being WWE Champion, entered the Royal Rumble match at number 1. And he was going to take out every single superstar and win the Rumble match. What would he have done in return? I don't know. But, that's what he did. And the first half of this match, again, I hated it. Because I was not... I'm still not the biggest fan of them basically handing Brock Lesnar like the most eliminations in a match. Like to me, it's like you'd expect Brock Lesnar to do that. Like if you're going to have someone break the record, have it be someone new, like someone like again when they had Roman Reigns do it in 2014, excellent move there. Braun Strowman doing the Greatest Royal Rumble again doesn't really count, but fine. Brock Lesnar didn't need something like that. But like I said, I say just about everyone except for one person, maybe two, Cesaro in there as well, thrown in there, was I okay with them jobbing out to Brock Lesnar. The only other one, again, I was not okay with was John Morrison. Again, that one still made me mad to this day, and they've really just not only botched John Morrison's return to WWE, but to me, again, made me ask, why did John Morrison decide to come back to WWE? As, again, it's just not been worth his time to come back. They made it like a freaking dumbass. But, again, the fact that they did that with Brock, just to build up to a moment that made me pop, the several moments that made me pop in this match, and I still do to this day, even going back and watching it, it was so worth it. So, before we got to that part, of course, we even had a moment where, Kofi Kingston came out, and him having a history with Brock Lesnar, dropping the championship to him at the first SmackDown on Fox in October 2019, and having help from, Rey Mysterio, who had a history with Brock also, and a powerhouse, of course, in New Day member at the time, Big E. And, that moment even there, even seeing Big E hit the big ending on Brock Lesnar, made me want to see a Brock Lesnar and Big E match. That's why he was actually my number 4 pick in my video I did for my top possibilities for a match for Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 37. Even though it's not looking possible now, but you never know. But then, of course, we also had when he had the back and forth battle with Keith Lee, which was awesome. And then when Drew McIntyre came in and Ricochet low-blowed Brock as revenge from what happened on the previous week's episode of Raw, and Drew McIntyre clayboard his ass right out of the Rumble match. Awesome. And I popped. And again, Drew McIntyre was the right person to win this Rumble. Even if they didn't have win the Rumble, they still set up that match perfectly for him and Brock just right there. So I would not have been as upset if Roman won, because, Roman was going to probably go on to fight the Universal Champion at WrestleMania anyways, as we pretty much figured he would. But then we also had, him just staring down Brock most of the time and just obviously just like showing Brock that he's his next big competition. And then, of course, another big moment that everyone's always going to want to talk about this Rumble, the return of Edge. Just absolutely just amazing. Again, Daniel Bryan coming back was a miracle. Edge coming back was also a miracle. I don't know who you could say whose was bigger. I mean, Daniel Bryan, you had watched go through, several setbacks where Edge is kind of like, I wouldn't say came out of nowhere, but he wrestled a lot with his neck injury. But then that triple fusion neck surgery just ended his career. But then he had grit. He continued to say, what if? He fought hard, and he eventually made his return in this Rumble match, as this man has been able to come back and finish his career on his terms. And for his first match in 9 years, again, Edge looked excellent. Like, I wouldn't have even thought he took time off. He had absolutely no ring rust, in my opinion. He looked great. And, like I said, the surprises we got in this match, even, the spots when Seth Rollins came out with, his henchmen of Buddy Murphy and the Authors of Pain, again, just a lot of great storytelling moments, a lot of great character build moments. It was a fun match. And like I said, just a Rumble match that, with everything that's been going on within the past year with the pandemic, just one match that really basically, this is the last time I really, really enjoyed being a wrestling fan, it felt like. That's why this match, even though there's some matches I feel like that were better than this, that's why this match to me really just holds a special place in my heart. Is this 2020 men's Royal Rumble match. And also, of course, Drew McIntyre winning and the start of his build to, his main event run. And like I've always said, what's made Drew McIntyre's main event run so good, he's just been himself. The story has just basically been Drew McIntyre himself, and it's come back to WWE after being fired in 2014, or whenever he was fired, 2014, and it's just worked out so great in the long run. That's why, again, this match is my number 6 for best matches of 2020 in WWE. My number 5 best match of the year is actually my best women's match of the year. They have built this match for many, many, many years. This feud was a build for many, many years. And it could have been a lot better if they gave it more time. Instead of abruptly ending it like they did when it had a lot more mileage, yet they'll give other people like Sasha and Carmella multiple matches where there is no reason for that feud to continue at all whatsoever. Yet this feud had the mileage, but it didn't continue. But at least we can say we finally did. We finally, after teasing it for almost 3 years, basically, did we finally get this match on the main roster on pay-per-view. And even though we didn't get it at SummerSlam, we didn't get it at WrestleMania, we still got it in a great stipulation, as these two were destined to do so. Let's talk about my number 5 match of the year. Number 5. Bayley versus Sasha Banks. SmackDown Women's Championship inside Hell in a Cell at Hell in a Cell 2020. Bayley, Sasha Banks. So, as I said when I did my best and worst storylines, I think if they would have given this feud more time once, they actually did start beating each other up, especially since I thought that they could have gotten this to WrestleMania, this definitely would have been maybe my best storyline of 2020. I know I have criticized at times, especially around WrestleMania season last year, how I thought Bayley's heel character was annoying. But in the long run, though, even though some booking stuff was weird, everything they did with Sasha and Bayley just made sense. These two obviously were trying to protect each other from basically, colliding into each other and getting the only thing they had access to, which is being the best in the women's division. Again, they had a run with all the gold. They were tag champs. They were each, for a couple weeks, for a month actually, both held 2 belts. Sasha being the Raw and tag team champion, Bayley being the SmackDown and a tag team champion. And like I said, the story was obviously, these two, whenever it comes to being on top, they're always going to be at each other's throats. Kind of like how it is for Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. And as Bayley mentioned, of course, it was only a matter of time when it came down to just all they had left with the SmackDown Women's Championship that, she felt Sasha would have turned on her, and Bayley just struck first. And of course, Sasha basically, even though this didn't work out as I had hoped to, we all know it's true. And obviously, with how long this has been built for, yes, this may be the only main roster match they may ever have, this Hell in a Cell match. But Hell in a Cell, to me, was just the perfect stipulation for this match. It was physical. It was brutal. Weapons were used greatly. The cage was used very greatly. Again, the emotions and whatnot, the rage and everything. Just two best friends, again, going at it. And, like I said, two people who know that basically, they're each other's own worst enemy. They're, the ones that, obviously, this women's division is not big enough for the both of them. Only one of them can be on top. It told that excellent story. Bayley obviously, went psycho when trying to protect herself at being on top. Sasha Banks is, competitive, always has to be on top, can't share the spot with anybody else. But to her, it's just business. Again, Bayley had to go a whole different route with it. And like I said, that story was very told well. And especially in this match also, the brutality and everything. Like, anytime these two women, just collide with each other, you're always going to expect a good match. On pay-per-view, though, they never cease to disappoint. You got this one, NXT TakeOver Respect, the Iron Woman match. The match at TakeOver Brooklyn 1, which is forever going to be, in my opinion, maybe my favorite women's wrestling match of all time. This, though, fell right in place there. This Hell in a Cell match. Just awesome stuff from both these women. Definitely two women who have changed women's wrestling to begin with. And to me, maybe the number 5 for best match of the year. But in my opinion, the best women's match of the year. At my number 5, Bayley versus Sasha Banks, SmackDown Women's Championship inside Hell in a Cell. Now we move on to the top 4. These top 4 for WWE again were very tough. Because although all of them at some point may have been listed at my number 1, it was tough because, like I said, these matches were amazing. But I feel like I wouldn't normally put any matches like this at my number 1. Because they feel like they're more so like a number 3 or number 4 candidate to me. I didn't really find a match that I felt was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be number 1 on anyone's list. I felt like this could be one, but it's not really. But my number 4, the reason why I didn't put this one at my number 1 is because this was more of a character development match than a wrestling match. I felt like this more so was just meant, this whole feud, which was one of my best feuds storylines of the year for 2020, was just meant, of course, to make a certain heel elevate him even more. But also, again, what it did to the other competition, the other hand in this feud, that again, benefit from this as well. And this right here was just a storytelling masterpiece to a T. And it was awesome. And that's why I even considered making my number 1. But I didn't quite feel it was worthy of number 1. But let's talk about it. My number 4, best match of 2020 in WWE. Number 4. Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso for the WWE Universal Championship in a Hell in a Cell I Quit match at Hell in a Cell 2020. So I know some people are probably going to argue that this match did not need to be inside Hell in a Cell. In some ways I agree, but some ways I disagree. The story going into this match, of course, is, again, Roman Reigns is playing the system like a fiddle. And he's basically playing into the emotions of Jey Uso. Just starting off as trying to get his own flesh and blood. His so-called brother. I mean, yes, in real life, we all know that Roman Reigns and the Usos are cousins. But they've grown up their whole entire lives together. They're basically brothers. They're best friends. And obviously, the best way for Roman Reigns to, play the system like a fiddle, to demand respect, is to even teach his own family a lesson. At Clash of Champions, they had a match where Jimmy Uso had to throw in the towel for his brother Jey, because Roman was taking it too far. But Roman was not satisfied with the fact that his own family did not acknowledge him for who he is, as the guy, the man, the head of the table, the tribal chief. So, if he wasn't going to do it then, Roman was going to make him do it, not just inside Hell in a Cell, where obviously, you're not the same being in Hell's structure. You're not the same also as far as, probably increasing the pressure, realistically, as there's no way out, there's no turning back. You got to do it or basically overcome it. And basically, the match is not going to end until he was basically acknowledged from his own family as the best. And, Jay may have gotten his offense at times, but Roman just beat the ever-living crap out of Jey Uso in this match. He did everything he could. Even as far as, tossing referees around and just snapping. Taking things too far that, other people outside the cell had to open it up and get in to try to restore order here. Even Jimmy Uso got in there to restore order and just to save his own brother. And Roman Reigns, even at some point, got emotional. He even started crying, but it wasn't like a baby cry. It was just, the obvious emotions that Roman was going through, but still sticking with his gut as believing he deserves to be on top, and he just wants things to fall into his place. But obviously, hurting his own family just hurts him in general. And then with Jimmy getting out there, and he's trying to cool him off. Cool it off, Oos. What's up? What's wrong, Oos? And then but Roman still did not care. He needed that satisfaction to make him feel good. So what does he do? He then puts Jimmy Uso in the guillotine. And when Jay realizes that enough is enough, he then says, I quit for Jimmy's own sake. Which leads to the following episode of SmackDown of Jey Uso getting it. Understanding what needs to happen here. Who runs the family? Who is the man? Jey Uso recognized that. And the match may have been emotional, but Roman Reigns got recognized as the head of the table of his own family in this match. Again, just not just a character development match, but just a storytelling masterpiece between a feud that really was not meant to be not say horrible, but not as good as it was, but just make it to be just out to be something we didn't even expect it to be. This was awesome stuff that even made Jey Uso look like a main eventer. And as continued praise I'm going to give Roman Reigns with this heel championship run is, again, the fact that he has made pretty much everyone he's feuded with look great. Whether it's Jey Uso or Drew McIntyre or even Braun Strowman in the match they had on SmackDown right after the draft, Kevin Owens recently, and hopefully soon, Cesaro. I still have my hopes for Elimination Chamber. I can keep dreaming. We'll just have to wait and see. But that, my friends, is my number 4 for best matches of the year in 2020 in WWE. Number 3 was also a match that I almost had as my number 1, but I still didn't feel like it was... It didn't feel like it was a number 1, definite match of the year contender for me. But it was definitely one of the best matches to me. One of the most exciting matches. A match that we had seen on live TV several times already, but the fact that there was a title involved, and then, again, the fact that these guys were given a chance to actually wrestle on pay-per-view, it made this match spectacular. And in my opinion, maybe in regular NXT at least, the best match in NXT. I wonder who remembers this match. Let's talk about my number 3. My third best match of the year in 2020. Number 3. Keith Lee versus Dominik Dijakovic for the NXT North American Championship at NXT TakeOver Portland 2020. So all the way back at NXT TakeOver Portland, the opening match to this show was one that I had waited to see on pay-per-view for the longest time. Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic, to me, in 2019 brought out the best in each other. They took each other to a whole nother level. Starting off with that Haas fight they had, their first match they collided in NXT back on, I think it was February 27th, 2019, I believe it was. The episode of NXT? Yes. The match, of course, that also made me a fan of Dijakovic. And now Dijakovic, of course, does not exist as he is now T-Bar, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this match. This, in my opinion, may be my favorite big man match of all time. We haven't seen too many big man matches per se. I mean, we saw Braun Strowman put on some great matches with Big Show in 2017, I believe it was. Yeah. We've seen a couple other good big man matches I'm trying to think of off the top of my head that actually were pretty good. But this one, when you have two 5-tool players like Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic, who can move like men who are like 100 pounds lighter than them, basically. Wrestle, a power fight. Wrestle a high-flying fight. Wrestle, a technical match. Just like all those tools put into one match with big men, it's special. There was several, the Spanish flies, the moonsaults, the raspberry flop I remember Dijakovic hit, jumping over the top rope, landing on Keith Lee as he was sitting in a chair between the announce tables. Like I said, these guys not just made the North American Championship feel prestige, but literally, again, like I said, just took big men wrestling to another level. Every time these guys fought, my eyes were just glued to the screen. I would still say either this one or their second encounter they had on live TV was their best match, I would say. Well, as far as live TV goes, that second match they had whenever Dijakovic returned from his knee injury in 2019 was their best TV match. This is by far, no doubt about it, their best match for sure, as these two just brought out the absolute best in each other. And again, what makes this match so special, again, we don't see too many, big man match like this. And with guys who have the ability, like both of these men, it's just something special. And that's why this match made it for best match of the year in 2020. Keith Lee versus Dominik Dijakovic for the NXT North American Championship at NXT TakeOver Portland 2020. I wondered if anybody remembered this match, because most places I did look up, some candidates for match of the year. This one was never mentioned, but I still believe this classic definitely deserved to being on this list. We are now going to go overseas with my number 2 here. Number 2 is a match that was not in front of a live crowd, but it was still a freaking awesome match to watch. It brought out the best in both these men, and it was a very rare, very hard to watch match that a PG environment puts on. And again, it takes place overseas, and it also brought out more in someone that I'm sure some of you thought was a little bit overpushed at first. Let's talk about my number 2 for best match of the year, going over to the UK. Number 2. Walter versus Ilya Dragunov for the NXT UK Championship on the October 29th, 2020 edition of NXT UK. I'm sure most of you do not watch NXT UK, but if you do not, please, I implore you, go back to the October 29th, 2020 edition and watch this match. I'm sure most of you probably got a taste of Ilya Dragunov maybe at the Worlds Collide last year when he faced Finn Balor. And a lot of you probably felt that this guy was not as big of a deal as WWE made it seem like it. But Triple H is super, super behind and super intrigued by Ilya Dragunov. I even thought he was going to be the one to dethrone Walter. Maybe if there was an actual crowd, he may have been. I don't know. But you see the size difference in this match. You see Ilya Dragunov, who basically is the size of a cruiserweight, and then there's Walter, who's basically like the UK's Brock Lesnar. And these guys, needless I say, let me say this. Even though, of course, the brutality in this match may not have been there, I mean, it was just a regular one-on-one match, this match, in some ways, kind of reminded me of Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk at SummerSlam 2013. I went that far and said it. These two believably beat the crap out of each other. The red marks, the slapping of the chests, the bumps that Ilya Dragunov took to bring out the more emotional side in his character just made this a flat-out classic. And to me, one of the best wrestling matches I've seen in a while. Like I said, you could compare this match to Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk at SummerSlam 2013. I mean, with a no DQ stipulation, I wonder how much further they would have gone in this match. You know, they say that, you know, a match that in the recent memory that a lot of people say was taken too far was the Lights Out match with Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega at Full Gear 2019. People say this match, with how physical, how brutal, and how emotional it was too far. That's saying something. I don't hear too many, and I even consider this my number one. But it didn't quite make number one. But I consider this one for number one also because of all that. But, again, this match made Ilya Dragunov a much bigger star than a lot of people probably will look at him. Again, like I said, if you just saw Dragunov in that Worlds Collide match with Finn Balor in 2000 at the beginning of 2020, again, go back and watch this match on the October 29th, 2020 edition of NXT UK. And you will not be disappointed. A physical, a brutal, and all-out fight. Walter, Ilya Dragunov, NXT UK, October 20th, 2020, my number 2 match of the year. And I think at this point it's pretty obvious. I'd be ridiculous not to put this match on my list. Again, it was tough for me to determine my number 1 match of the year. I could have gone with so many of them. I could have definitely gone with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, Hell in a Cell, I Quit. I could have gone with Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic. I could have gone with Walter and Ilya Dragunov. I even could have gone with maybe the men's 2020 Royal Rumble match. There was a lot of good candidates here for WWE. Despite the fact that we forget that, we didn't have a pandemic and we had a lot of poor storytelling, we still had a lot of good matches. But I chose this one as my number 1 out of respect of what this match was and what it's gone down in history as. I had low expectations going into this match, but what they did was perfect. It was the main event of night 1 of WrestleMania 36, and as it should be, it better be, the send-off, the sunset on the career of a phenom. Here is my number 1 best match of 2020 in the WWE. And the number 1 best match of 2020 in WWE is The Undertaker versus AJ Styles in the Boneyard match at WrestleMania 36. So, of course, this was right around the time when I first got my YouTube channel back. I was not really that hyped for this match going into it. Needless to I say, had the pandemic not happened, had cinematic matches not happened, this match, we would not be here with this match. And I, of course, feel like that after watching Undertaker's last ride, you know, this was the perfect final match for The Undertaker. AJ Styles, of course, took a gamble as you watched the last ride, and Undertaker felt satisfied after his no-holds-barred tag match when he teamed up with Roman Reigns against Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre at Extreme Rules 2019. But AJ Styles talked Mark Calloway into doing just one more match. And of course, like I said, I was nervous. I was worried that this was just going to be another flop at WrestleMania, as most of Undertaker's several matches have been. But to me, doing a cinematic match with Undertaker basically having all of his gimmicks was awesome. It was phenomenal. Gallows and Anderson, of course, getting involved also in this. Just the story, the special effects in this, just everything that this match basically did was celebrated the legacy of The Undertaker in so many ways. Where he was, the dead man, minister of evil, the American badass, everything. It was just awesome. From escaping from being buried alive, to the way he resurrected, from throwing people off of roofs and whatnot. Just the brutality again, the symbolism, the storytelling, and like I said, just the celebration of a legend's career. How could you not love this match? Again, maybe just a regular one-on-one match inside the ring would not have done the trick. I don't think, if this was 10 years ago, I feel this would have been, an excellent match, one-on-one inside the ring. But if they would have done this just one-on-one inside the ring with no crowd, this would not have been that great of a match. But the fact they pulled this off with this Boneyard match, again, basically just celebrating the career of The Undertaker. I may not view this as my favorite match of all time, and quite frankly, I feel like there could have been a lot of candidates, especially in AEW, if I was ranking them all together for best matches of 2020. I would not say this would be on number one, but I would still give this the respect it deserves for being Undertaker's final match. And it better be Undertaker's final match ever. It was the best way to send him off. Props to AJ Styles as well for helping put this together and everything. Again, it was a phenomenal match. To me, the best cinematic match, obviously, in WWE this past year. And my number one, the best match of the year in 2020 in WWE. Excuse me. Wow. We got through it, guys. And look at that. 2 hours. Like I said, this is probably going to be a 2-hour stream. It was efficient. I did have to step out for a second to, splash some water on my face to wake me up a little bit. It worked, gave me a second win. But there you have it, guys. My top 10 best and worst matches of 2020. Before we go off the air and read the live chat one more time, let me read over over the matches one more time. And if you guys like to give any more of your best matches of 2020, feel free to do so in the live chat or in the comments section. But I'll read over both lists one more time before I go off the air here. So, for worst, my number 10 was Asuka and Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship at Backlash. Number 9 was Rhea Ripley versus Aaliyah and Robert Stone in the 2-on-1 handicap match at NXT Great American Bash 2020. Number 8 was Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins Eye for an Eye match at Extreme Rules 2020, The Horror Show. Number 7 was Elias versus Baron Corbin at WrestleMania 36. Number 6 was Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 36. Number 5 was Bray Wyatt, Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman in the Swamp Fight at Extreme Rules 2020, The Horror Show. Number 4 was the Street Profits versus the Viking Raiders in their cinematic garbage match at Backlash 2020. Yeah, Ash called that garbage, and it ended in a dumpster too. Number 3, Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet for the WWE Championship at Super Showdown 2020. Number 2, the match when everything started to go downhill for everything. Just kidding. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt versus Goldberg for the Universal Championship at Super Showdown 2020. And my number 1 worst match of the year in 2020 was the 5-on-5 Women's Survivor Series Elimination match at Survivor Series 2020. And for best matches, number 10 was Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship Tournament Finals on SmackDown on the June 12th, 2020 edition of SmackDown. Number 9 was Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano, Rebel Heart versus Blackheart. One final beat on the April 8th, 2020 edition of NXT. Number 8 was Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens for the Universal title at TLC 2020 in a TLC match. Number 7 was Adam Cole versus Keith Lee. Winner takes all. NXT Great American Bash 2020. Number 6 was the men's 2020 Royal Rumble match. Number 5 was Bayley versus Sasha Banks inside Hell in a Cell for the SmackDown Women's Championship at Hell in a Cell. Number 4 was Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. Hell in a Cell I Quit match for the Universal Championship inside Hell in a Cell at Hell in a Cell 2020. Number 3 was Keith Lee versus Dominik Dijakovic, NXT North American Championship at NXT TakeOver Portland 2020. Number 2 was Walter and Ilya Dragunov for the NXT UK Championship on the October 29th, 2020 edition of NXT UK. And number 1, the final match in the phenomenal career, the Boneyard match between The Undertaker and AJ Styles at WrestleMania 36. Whew! Before I go off the air and I go downstairs to watch the second half of AEW, let's check the live chat. So, we've got, I think we were at right here. Tyler said the best for him was Roman and Drew at Survivor Series. Yes, that was an excellent match. I'll take that. He also said the Boneyard match is the best non-wrestling match. By the way, the TLC match between Reigns and Owens was a worst for him. And again, I disagree. I love that match, but if you didn't like it, that's fine, Tyler. But it looks like it's going to be it for the live chat. But, yep. Good thing I didn't do this one last night. Again, I didn't finish these graphics till 11 o'clock last night. And there's no way I would have been doing a 2-hour stream at 11 o'clock at night on a work night. Because I would have been toast. And probably would have half-assed it. And that's why, of course, when I got a little bit exhausted after the worst matches, I went over there, got a quick drink of water, splashed some water in my face, and I got through this pretty good. So, as far as these special streams go, I have one more left for WWE, where I'm basically going to do, like, the best wrestlers in the company, and maybe some miscellaneous, like, ones. Like, my favorite pay-per-view, the worst pay-per-view, best tag team, worst tag team, like, some of that stuff. I'll do that in that stream. But before I do that one, I want to maybe do 1 or 2 AEW ones. I can't really think of too many, worsts for AEWs, so most of those are probably going to be more so positive. Like, maybe matches, storylines, miscellaneous ones, maybe like 2 or 3 for AEW. So, let's say, at most, about 4 more of these best of 2020 streams are left. Hopefully I'll get those graphics put together and get those knocked out of the way. And of course, I'm still working on getting my baseball players retired. So hopefully soon I can get back to my video game Let's Plays and my Harry Potter Let's Plays as well. And other stuff too that come as well on this channel. So keep trucking along here, guys. But I'm going to check out now. I've already missed a whole hour of Dynamite. I'm intrigued to see what I've missed so far. So I'm going to go downstairs, watch that. If I'm feeling energetic enough, I'll come back up here afterwards and do my review. So guys, once again, what were your best and worst matches of 2020 in WWE? Again, this could be from Raw, from SmackDown, NXT, NXT UK, a pay-per-view, whatever you want. Even a house show, if you ever went to a house show, one of the very few house shows that happened in WWE in 2020. Make sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Slap a like on the video, and subscribe for more content to come to my channel. And follow me on Twitter at DemandAirBoy93. Until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my AEW live review. And I'll catch you all later. Thanks again, guys. This was fun. Peace out, everybody.